everybody, my name is Dévi and welcome to Book Connoisseur.
Wow!
So I realized today that I didn't talk about so many of the Irish books that I read last year, and I only really wrapped up the books that I had read during the Irish Readathon, so I thought I would briefly go over those again, but then expand and include more of the books I read during the rest of the year that were by Irish authors. All of these books I previously wrapped up in my March wrap-up from 2024, and I'm just going to quickly go through them. So the first one I read was Foster by Claire Keegan. This is about 80 pages or so, and I highly recommend it. And then I read Himself by Jess Kidd, which was hilarious and fun, and I have it somewhere, but I can't find it right now, so here's a picture of it. Then I read So Late in the Day, which is 3 stories from Claire Keegan, which I didn't like so much, I can't even remember what they're about. And then I read Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan, which was on the Women's Prize for Fiction Longlist 2024. I really enjoyed it and I highly recommend. The next book I read was Under the Hawthorn Tree, The Children of Famine #1 by Marita Conlon McKenna, and this is a children's book about the Irish famine. The next book was The Wren by Anne Enright, which I've talked about a lot already this year. And then I read The Rachel Incident by Carolina O'Donoghue, and if you like complicated friendship triangles, squares, love, romance, that kind of thing, messiness, I highly recommend. I don't know why I didn't show you. I have The Rachel Incident right here. Yeah, if you like messiness and complicated relationships and university drama, definitely recommend this one. And then I read Soldier Sailor, which reading this over a year postpartum, it still really hit home in so many ways and was just so incredibly beautifully written. I highly recommend if you love beautiful books. So I think after that I didn't talk about any other books because those were the books I read in March of last year. But I continued to read Irish books through April, I believe. Well, some Irish books. I have a couple to talk about. So the first one is Juno Loves Legs by Carl Geary, and this book tells the story of Juno and her friend whose name I cannot remember. And Juno is a girl growing up on the rough side of Dublin, and this is a beautiful story about friendship and about surviving. If you like Shuggie Bain, you'll like this book. Something I really loved about this book was how fleshed out the characters were and how interesting they ended up being. And what I really loved about this, it was just very much this beautiful platonic love story. And I think that we should remember more often that friendships are love too, and how those things play out. And Carl Geary captured it really beautifully. Maybe I did talk about these books because I remember covering this up, but I read Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan, which was her debut novel. If you're into really dark, emotional writing, I think this will be a really great fit for you. You get into the depths of a character's brain where it's not so pretty and kind of these unhinged sort of thoughts, and the character is a young adult woman who's in this relationship. It's just very toxic and she's being gaslit all the time. But this is definitely one of those books that's just very human. I did not enjoy being in this world. I will say it's a little depressing, but I think that's sort of the point of it. It's really getting at these raw human emotions and just these raw experiences that people can go through as a young adult, or even an older adult, just in toxic relationships in general. So the next Irish book that I read was Evenings and Weekends by Oisin McKenna. So this book has really divided people. You either really like it or you don't at all. I personally really enjoyed myself. So we meet this cast of characters. They're all sort of friends. Some of them know each other from when they were young. They're all kind of young adults. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of each single character because the point of it is sort of this chaotic movement of the characters through this time period. What I really loved about the chaos of the characters and how many different characters he really like dug into is that it really reminded me of being in a crowded city, crossing paths with all these people. It really reminded me of the movie Love Actually. So if you like that movie and how the paths are sort of all interconnected, I think you'd really like this book. I've heard of people giving up because there's too many characters to keep track of, but after a while you do sort of get into the flow of the writing and understanding each character and their quirks and their story, and then realizing like how they sort of interconnect. And yeah, I really enjoyed myself. I read it fairly quickly too. And then the last book I'm going to talk about, which I've already talked about on this channel for sure, is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. This was the last book I read last year and it was my favorite book of the year. It still very much resonates with me. I think we got that beautiful writing style of Sally Rooney where she just captures romantic relationships so well and how complicated they are. But on top of that, you get this other layer of this relationship between two brothers grieving their father. I think I said this before, but Sally Rooney is a Marxist, and you get all these different layers of like social class and order even within the family, and it's just so layered. I just adored reading this book, and I still am like reeling from finishing it. Like, I wish I could still be in that world. If you have not read this, I would highly recommend it. It's a long one, but it's so worth it. I say this with a grain of salt because it's been a long time since I read Sally Rooney's other books, but it's my favorite Sally Rooney book by far. And I'm really excited for her future ones if her writing is progressing in this way, and her storylines are getting like more layered and more complicated. I mean, it's funny that I'm saying that because I have a quote on my journal. I'll pop a picture of my journal charm right here. The charm was made by the company July Rose, who's the same company who made my little fish pendant. It says the quote, "More life, more and more of life." And basically it's like how relationships and meeting people and having people in your life is complicated and difficult, but that is living and that is life, and we're lucky to be able to experience those things, and that really resonated with me. The character Margaret really resonated with me, and I really loved this book. So those are all the Irish books I read in 2024. I am excited to be continuing reading for the Irish Readathon 2025. I just wanted to make sure I recommended some of these before the month was over. I have some changes coming to my channel that I'm excited to explore with you. Hopefully you'll stay along for the ride. So keep an eye out for some more videos from me, and I'll talk to you again soon with another video.